This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of having straight from Baltimore with some of my Emory brethren are from and maybe an ex-girlfriend or two. Scott Markman, the Monogram Group. We're going to riff about M&A, private equity, and anything we fucking want to talk about. Good to meet you, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. So, take people through just as a background. You've worked with a number of private equity clients. You've done a lot of marketing for investment groups. You're also doing things with portfolio companies. You and I have been in kind of concentric circles, so I'm glad we're connected now. But just as background, just give a little bit of like what you've been working on, and then we'll jump into some war stories.
Sure. So a little bit of clarification. I was born and raised in Baltimore, so I'm a diehard O's and Ravens guy. When I saw Pete on another podcast, he was wearing a big Met shirt. And so I told him I'd take the piss out of him about Steve Cohen blowing in lots of money, but we'll get back to that later. But I've lived in Chicago since 1988, so a big chunk of my adult life. So, I can't relate as much as I love Baltimore. I self-identify as a Chicagoan, and I love this place, and it's been home for a long time. I started my agency in 1990, so it's year 36. And about 6 years in, I got an opportunity to win a piece of business with a startup that ended up becoming like a colossal titan in private equity, and they're called Interis Capital.
Sure.
I walk into any private equity shop in America from Blackstone on down and say I built the Interis Capital brand from scratch, which is true, and I'm instantly credentialed because they're that big and accomplished and established. They have 80 billion under management, probably 600 employees, and they're a household name in this world. And so I'm blessed to have been, I was at the ground floor. I helped to pick the damn name and the logo and all that in between. And I had a great client at that point, two guys, Dave Bracken and Dave Swanson, who were two of the 12 partners that founded it. And they were the guys that ran the marketing and all that good stuff. And what was kind of cool about it was, and I've told this to them to their face 100,000 times, they're kind of like class clowns who became bankers. Yeah. And made a shit ton of money. But the reason I, kind of lovingly say that is because they wanted us to do the kind of work that would a little bit tweak the nose of this very staid market, this banks, Merrill Lynch, all that kind of stuff, and do it in a way that was meaningful, but that caught people's attention. And so they challenged us for a long time to do that kind of work, and it was successful. So as a result, our name got passed around this growing category called private equity. Back then, it was just a couple of firms doing some stuff. Yep. So our client count today is like 100 firms. Like,
that's awesome.
We understand this ecosystem called private equity far better than any other marketing agency in America because I've been doing it for a long time and I've seen every story on the planet. Then about 12 years ago, we got an opportunity to start doing work for their portfolio companies, and that's really the big area for us today.
That's awesome.
50 and working at about 12 right now. And, it's a frothing market. I mean, all these roll-ups, we live in the world of fitness and related categories. Halo, I have to use the word halo.
Thank you, sir.
And in the world of halo, there's a lot of roll-ups going on with med spas and with fitness clubs and all stripes in between. And that is creating a massive addressable market for us because a lot of money is chasing roll-ups in a variety of categories.
Yeah. So to start back, you were in the 90s. In 1994 is when I started in banking. And in 96, I was part of the private equity coverage group.
Pete, before I forget, I saw on your LinkedIn page that you started back in the day at Brockway and Moran.
Yes.
Okay. They were our number 2.
Yeah. So I was the first senior associate there, I think. And that's when they bought Gold's Gym. And, one of the interesting parts of the Gold's Gym deal for them from a private equity standpoint was because that brand was so well recognized in the U.S., it's like, oh, you're the guys that own Gold's Gym. So it kind of like created like this brand equity, goodwill, and appreciation. Like, oh, those guys are, they don't own like the plumbing supply business that nobody knows about, Ferguson's in Pennsylvania, but these guys own Gold's Gym. So, as you kind of thought about, because private equity, for the people that are on listening to this, and I talk about private equity all the time, it's basically just a couple of people that get together and go and raise money from the colleges that they went to and pension funds and endowment funds and pool this capital and then go invest it on a hopefully discretionary basis where they call the capital versus these independent sponsors that should be called dependent sponsors because they're dependent on finding money, is what I like to call them. But as you kind of like worked with people and said, like, what's your DNA and like what's your approach? Because to win a deal in private equity, there's a level of trust, there's a level of professionalism, there's a level of like knowing your domain. So how do you like approach it now versus like maybe when there wasn't as much competition? How do you stand out without being too gregarious?
It's a great question. So, a couple of macro comments I can make about this world called private equity that kind of gleaned over time. I am honored. We are honored, the agency, to work for the smartest, most methodical, driven, success-oriented people in the world.
Yeah,
It is spectacular. We love what we do. Having said that, it's also a very risk averse bunch of people. And there's a me too-ness to everything that they do. And so a lot of the battles we fight are, sir or madam, can you be 6 degrees off down the fairway? Because that's where the gold is going to be in terms of message, brand, who are you, how you different. There's a lot of formula templatized thinking and execution in this world to great effect. That's how people make a lot of money. But in the world of brand applied or story or differentiation or all that kind of stuff, it's antithetical. And so getting some folks at times to move off the dime can take a lot of prodding. Now, we win some battles, we lose some battles. And I'm not
yeah,
going to sleep over somebody just staying right down the fairway and being happy with that. That's fine. But it is our job as advisors and creatives and strategists to let people know what the opportunities are and where the gold lay and let them opt in or not. You can't make everybody a gold prospector. It's just not possible.
now, given that, so when I started in '96, I think there were 40 private equity funds, and you'll appreciate this being like having some grit and hard work. I used to actually walk to every building down Park Avenue. I would pretend to have a meeting on their floor, and I would go and I'd take their brochure because that's before the internet. That's the only way you found out what companies they own. And then I'd put them in a PowerPoint slide and take it to Tyco and see if Tyco wanted to buy it. We made some deals that way. But as private equity funds have realized, like, hey, I'm in a competitive market. I'm putting out capital, and I'm up against like some real institutionalized businesses now. Where Leonard Green used to be Leonard Green, and like 10 other guys. Right now, it's like probably 1,000 people, and they got 20 different funds. And TPG used to be, I can't remember the guy's name, from Texas, right? One guy and his minion of deal guys, and now it's like TPG, like that's like what fund are you working with? So how do the guys that are in the middle market humanize what they're doing and help them win deals by saying, hey, when you're doing a deal, you're doing a deal with me, like my name's on the door, like Peter Brockway used to do?
So my answer to that question is about humanizing who are you beyond the capital and beyond the PowerPoint decks and beyond the IRR numbers and all the other factual shit that you need to qualify yourselves and say we're elite. That's the price of entry into a crowded, often commoditized world.
Yeah,
So how are buying decisions made? Because somebody owns a company and who are they going to crawl in bed with and sell their company to is a buying decision. And somebody is gambling like their life with which firm they take. And sometimes they, opt out of, when they sign an LOI, they opt out because they get the willies.
right.
It is a human process, and that means emotions are involved, and it's often irrational around decisions, around these kinds of considerations. So we say, look, you have to bring your facts, your hoard of facts, on and throw them on the table, right? Otherwise, you're not going to get to second base. So
Right, right.
get through that stuff, but defining yourself in a brand environment, in a communications environment, which is multiple audiences across different avenues of communication over time. Again, we'll come back to what you've done with Halo, that I'm frankly so in love with, is because it requires patience and focus and discipline and don't stray off the reservation. Just Get something that you believe in, that is true, that is understandable, that you can rinse and repeat 100,000 times. And if you can do that, you're going to be way ahead of anybody else because the bar is set in private equity very low.
So Antares, you brought that up at the beginning. They were one of the debt providers to several Brockway deals, early on. And there was a woman named Kathy who came from Antares, I think, and worked at Brockway as a partner at one point as well. Um, they built their reputation on being reliable. They would stick with you to the end. They were flexible. They showed up. They took your phone calls. They never walked away from a credit. Um, and they built that up over time. But they built that up. The people built that brand, as you did, like kind of build it up, like in the external way, and then like the chatter around the private equity groups, and that's kind of how things get done, right? It's like, hey, like these guys they're elite, they have a reputation. You've kind of helped them create that, and then it's like, hey, are you on my blacklist or are you on my green list, right? I got guys on my blacklist because they just don't do what they say they're going to do. So how do you stay involved in making sure that like the brand equity is being preserved, or like what are the founders or the managing partners doing, and then you're able to like take that and kind of package it up as like either PR or content, or hey, like you're sticking with like what we put out here.
There are certain best practices in storytelling, marketing, PR, I'll call it communications management, reputation management, that
Right.
transcend categories and situations, right? Um, it's, brands are brands, people are people, marketing is marketing, and there's some higher wisdom to all of this stuff. And so to get our private equity clients to agree to that and opt into the higher wisdom is probably half the battle.
Yeah.
Hear a lot of, well, but we're different. Well, every freaking category says they're different. So,
Right.
truckers say they're different. So it's like both are true. Private equity is unique in particular and specific about all kinds of dynamics, but the macro, what works in communication and messaging, is, I use this, Pete, I use this metaphor of this reference all the time. I use the model of Starbucks. It's really simple. We understand Starbucks. Starbucks invented the idea of premium coffee that can be customized exactly the way you want it. Now, what does Starbucks really sell? They do not sell coffee. They sell mass customization. In
Yep.
25,000 Starbucks around the world, including China, and I've been in a bunch in China, by the way, it's the exact same experience. You walk up to the barista, it's in a beautiful environment. You have literally 10,000 drinks you can order at the counter. You pay your money, and in a minute and a half, there's your drink. That's it. They don't fuck it up. So that's what they sell, and it happens to be a great product. And the store environment, the lighting's beautiful, and people beautiful, and they say hello to you, and they smile, and all that good stuff. And they have multiple audiences. They have consumers, they have baristas, they have guys that work in the warehouse, they have suppliers, coffee growers in Guatemala and Colombia and a bunch of other countries. They have Wall Street, they have social media. But you only get one brand. You only get one brand. Now you have to nuance it and address the different self-interests of these audience segments, because you know what they only care about? What are you going to do for me? What are you going to do for me? I don't care about I'm a consumer. I don't care about the baristas. All I want is what are you going to do for me? So if you take that same, I'll call it recipe and apply it into private equity, it's equally as applicable. That's half the battle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw something with Jonathan Gray from Blackstone addressing the recruits this year, and he basically said, be present, question how we do things here, but care and show everybody respect. And I think Blackstone's done a really good job of maintaining that. And also Blackstone, as an example, like they put out some videos that my team might not let me put out. Like they put up some satire shit that's like really funny, but like they got a couple billionaires running around there, like dressing up in like a Halloween costume or something, and they released that. Or the president's like jogging and he's like, I'm in like Shanghai today, and I'm jogging down the street. He's talking about like a Taylor Swift song that his daughter's listening to. So it's interesting, like branding capital and branding people. And as you look at that, and say like, who do you want to work with? Um, are you working directly with these people on their like their LinkedIn profiles, on their
Yes.
articles that they're putting out, and
Yes.
videos? Yeah,
All,
okay.
all of it.
Because there's some guys that there's some guys that'll say to me like, "Hey man, like I'm not on LinkedIn, or I'm like I don't need to do this, or that's not I'm not I don't need to be like socially I don't need to be on social media as much." I'm like, yeah, you do, dude, because like if you have like 500 followers on LinkedIn and that's it, like you're not an authority in what you're doing.
Well, look, I mean, people are free to believe what they want to believe. Doesn't mean they're right.
Yeah,
If somebody said that to me, I don't need this. I would say, good luck and find another agency. And by the way, you're fucking wrong.
yeah. I mean, it's a great way for you. Yeah, there are times when I'm just like, look, we're not going to get along. Like, you can't be my client. Like, I don't think we don't gel here. Like, we don't think of the world the same way. I'm sure you do too. Switching gears completely. What do you think of liquid death?
You know, I like everybody, in America 2025, see their product on the shelves all over the place.
Yeah,
I think it's just one of the most interesting branding stories of the last 20 years because it's so audacious.
it's
The
crazy, right?
risk behind whatever they thought their agenda was or their strategy, and it's worked. Like again, I just want to like bow down to them in the risk taking and then executing against whatever they thought they were trying to do, and they made it
Yeah.
work. Hats off to them, 100,000.
For everybody, for anyone who doesn't know what liquid death is doing, they basically took a canned water drink and turned it into as if it was like the most potent alcohol, you know, cocktail that you could make. And they got like doctors drinking it before they go into surgery, and like policemen drinking it. And they're like these crazy web commercials that they put out there. It's shocking to me.
Look, it is audaciousness as an end game, and for a lot of folks that don't have the or the stomach for it, or the budget, or the creatives to execute against it, you can have the best idea in the world, but if the execution sucks creatively, it's going to fall flat. And the folks whoever did their stuff knew what they were doing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Let me tell you what pisses me off about private equity, and then you can tell me how you fit into this to help solve it. Okay. I got clients that have like 20 different portfolio companies. Okay. And I'm like, hey, are you helping them? Do you have an awesome marketing agency in one company that you're basically like having them work with on their other companies? Do you have an awesome sourcing person that is buying all these like office supplies and buying like, have these vendor related? They're like, dude, like we're thinking about setting this thing up. I'm like, what the fuck are you waiting for, dude? Like you own all these companies. You can help optimize their cost structure. You can help them like understand how to do Salesforce. There's a couple of groups that do it, but then I'm like, scratches my head. We're like, no, that's the CEO's decision. I'm like, aren't you like the value added, like strategic private equity guy who's like bringing best people and best practices? Maybe some groups do it, but I would say the majority of them like are just like managing assets instead of like optimizing businesses. It drives me crazy.
So let me give you a two-part answer. Um, Most of our PE firm clients who make introductions into the leadership of their portfolio companies are very careful to say it's their decision, it's their budget, and that's fine. There's a handful who just say, I'm just going to say, do this and work with these guys and prioritize it. Um, at the end of the day, there's no right answer to this stuff. Look, ideally, from a self-interested perspective, we are trying to sell long-term relationship at a firm level and sort of prove the fact that we're, doing great work and good, easy to work with and priced right and all that. And so throw us the stuff. And, there are certain firms that buy into that value proposition, others that don't. At the end of the day, it's a large enough world. There are 4,000 or 5,000 firms there that, all I really need is 25 relationships, not 600. And
Yeah, sure,
I'm
sure.
making, a very healthy living.
Yeah. When you take a look at groups that are doing due diligence on the front end, and we're getting involved, and sometimes like they don't want to pay to like have buy side diligence work. I'm like, dude, whatever you pay us, like you're gonna make 4 or 5 times that amount just by like this insight, or like disinformation that you can't have on your own because you don't live in the industry. Are you being brought in on the front end to be like, hey Scott, like we're buying this company, like they do XYZ. Can you take a look at their marketing, like positioning, like where these guys are, where we can take this? Are they doing that up front yet, as they should be, or not as much?
So we developed a specific brand sales and marketing pre-close
Good.
stage due diligence offering in January, frankly, on the advice of another investment banker. And so we've been pitching it for 4 or 5 months now. We've had a couple of bites. In every general presentation of our skills and deliverables, it is the first thing we talk about. So
Yeah.
I would tell you that it's maybe coming a little bit slower than I would like because it's a little bit like fishing. You could be the world's best fisherman, but if there aren't fish in the pond and they aren't biting, you're not going to get a bite.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of serendipity or timing. And I think that once we start to gather them, and then you turn around and show to somebody else, look what we did for these guys.
Yeah.
We did a huge project in February to package a company for sale because there was a huge gap between the sophistication of the company and how they showed, and they were getting ready to be represented by one of the brand name iBanks who said, "You need to clean this up and go find somebody who can do this in 1 month," and that was us.
Good. Yeah.
And it was a massive undertaking. And in 5 weeks, we did a 50-page website and 2 3-minute extremely high-end videos. And, I think the deal is going to be closing this month or next. And I'm curious to see how it played out in market. But this was a huge project for us about packaging a company
Yeah.
sale. And I would love to do more, but it was a totally cool assignment.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'll be part of some buy-side agreements where they want to do, a private equity firm wants to do a Bain study or a McKinsey study for several $1,000,000, and they want to have that in the file just in case like this thing doesn't go well. They'll be like, well, Bain told me it was going to be okay. And they're like relying on like this report, which is like looking in a rear view mirror as far as I'm concerned, versus saying like, hey, if you look at this as like a sports team, instead of looking at like what happened last year and like have some expert or specialist trying to like forecast some CAGR, like what if I just put the best fucking people on the field against this, view the asset as like an opportunity, and let me just swarm this asset with my best people. What do you think? Is the Bain report for 2 million or like the tactical deployment of 2 million? Like what's a better use of proceeds? Because it drives me a little bit crazy, and I want to talk to you because you're on the inside.
The monetization of 2 million is 1.7 for the Bain name and 300,000 for the work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's their model, and God bless them, and I hope to be there someday. But you and I both know that if I make something, they paid me 300,000, I could deliver 3 times the value, but I have 1/1000th of the brand name.
Yeah, sure.
So that's just the business world, and you and I will never fight that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to fight that. I'm just trying to maybe use this as a means of communication to people that are listening to say, hey, what's my uses of my transaction fees? And wouldn't it be better if I just hired like an all-star team to play for me than 60 pages of PowerPoint to put in a file? I don't know. Maybe you can think about that. Wrote this book called Time to Win Again, which we'll send over to you. That's just basically a caricature of like how to run your business like a sports team. 52 takeaways, take timeouts, know your competition, take the points, like all these different things. You'll like it. It's like good to great meets like Where's Waldo. You'll appreciate it. Dave, let's get that out right away.
I think I saw on some of the background did for our podcast that you're a big team sports guy and a lot of you approach things. I'm the same way. I grew up and still play sports and like
what do you play?
My big sports these days are I run, I ski, I play tennis, I play golf.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I just got a new set of golf clubs. So
get at it, and it's so much fun. But it's like I kind of run the agency, sort of like I play soccer growing up. I play it like I'm the coach of the team, and we only have one expression at the agency. That's it, which is we win as a team, we lose as a team.
Yeah. One of the chapters of the book is if you want more than 5 months and 29 days severance, Okay, we'll not give you a day more because that's the last day of the Super Bowl and the first day of preseason. If you're like a CFO and you're looking for more than that, you can't find one of 5,000 companies to work for that have more than like 2 million of EBITDA. Like that's on you, bro. Like that's your severance package
All
plan.
right, so I want to do something a little bit different with what time you have left, and
Yeah, good.
I want to interview you a little bit for your
Fire away, bro.
because
Yeah, and then I want your quotes.
I am smitten with what you've done with the
Oh,
Terminator.
really? Thank you, dude.
I think it's the coolest fucking thing in the world. So
Really.
I wanna get just the origin story of how that came to you and how you decided to pursue it, and fast forward to today.
You're growing up. What position did you play?
I played left everything because I'm a lefty.
Lefty. Okay. So I was a goalie. So I was always like the guy that like made sure we didn't lose. Right. I'm not the guy who's like they're not holding me up at the end. They're like, pat me on the back, be like, yo, bro, thanks for making sure I'm making that safe. So I've always been like in the background and try to like make other people win. And I've always played defense for some reason. I'm like play middle linebacker in flag football. I play like roller hockey defense. I'm third baseman on the team because I'm like the guy ready to take the shot, when a softball comes or something like that, or a catcher. Um, so that's like my whole DNA is like, how do I help other people succeed? And I got lucky enough when Brockway and Moran bought Gold's Gym. Scott, you'll love the story. First day I get there, August 99, August 1st, 99, they have everybody's around the conference room table down in Boca, and they have three deals. The first one is we got an exclusive. We're under LOI to buy this company that has a diagonal soap dispenser patent in the bathrooms of the airplanes and the blue chemicals. And I was like, I didn't want to catch eye contact with anyone because that wasn't very interesting to me. The second was an agricultural tank business, which being from New York City area, like I don't really know much about food except eating, which I'm really good at. And then they're like, hey, we're going to buy Gold's Gym. With the largest Gold's Gym franchisee. And I'm like, hey, man, I was the intramural athlete of the year back at Emory in 93. And I have a Gold's Gym tank top that fits and a Gold's Gym membership. So can I be on the Gold's deal? And that's how I got drafted into the industry originally from there. And I had a banking background. So long story short, I ended up working at Brockway Moran for about a year. Then I started up an internet group that was an affiliate sister company of Gold's Gym. And then I came back to banking and started helping people buy and sell fitness companies. And I kept telling people I'm a health and wellness banker. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, dude, but if you say the word wellness enough, like you start to get sick in your stomach because you don't like that word doesn't, it's like saying like the word normal or saying like the word mediocre or saying like the word like vanilla. It's just like there's nothing that pops to it. And I Googled the word and it came out that there was a guy in the 1950s named Dr. Halbert Dunn, who was a biostatistician at the Mayo Clinic. And he's looking at the data. And he's like, oh, everyone's getting sick. I got to come up with the movement, to get people healthy. So he basically came up with the antonym of illness. So the wellness industry is the not sick industry. And then I started to say to myself and to Dave Ganelin, who's on my call here, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to become like, I'm not the health and wellness banker anymore because I'm just like trying to make sure people don't get sick. Like that's so boring. And like, that's not like energetic. And that's not like, it doesn't have anything to do with like winning. It doesn't have anything to do with like optimizing and like using science and like help motivating, inspiring people. So we got to come up with a different word. And then a couple months later, I literally wake up at 3:00 in the morning and I'm like, holy shit, like I was playing Boggle with like my grandmother down in like Hallandale back in the day. And I'm like boggling it up. It's like HALO stands for health, active lifestyle, outdoors. And we're basically creating like this halo effect because once you come into the industry and change what you eat and change how you exercise and who you interact with and get off your couch, like you're in, like you don't get out, right? You become a halo evangelist, right? And I'm doing marathons instead of going to Panama City. I'm going to wellness retreats instead of going to Vegas. I'm talking to you about like what fitness studio I go to instead of like what movie I went to, what club I went to at night, right? So your whole lifestyle changes. So we've been using this term halo for now 8 years. I wish I knew you beforehand because we had a wellness retirement party, which was like a weekend at Bernie's thing that we did before COVID, like blew out a cake and like try to get this word out of here. And we're coming out with an initiated coverage report on October 3rd. And what I want to do is basically be like Captain Halo. And I want people to be like, hey, I can invest in the Halo sector, which could be a connected fitness company. It could be a kayak company. It could be a wellness, hotel. It could be a bicycle company, fitness, recovery, anything related to living a better lifestyle. And that's or
You're
sneakers.
7 or 8 years in. I want to ask a direct question. If
Yeah.
you could rate 0 being awful, 10 being the best, around the two dimensions of brand awareness and perception. Yeah, I've heard of that. And if I've heard of it, do I have a really positive image of Halo? Where do you think you are in those dimensions after 8 years?
I'd say the people in the industry have heard of it. I'd say they're positively inclined when they hear about it, they like it. The problem is that few of them like turn it into like the way they talk. They know it's out there. They will use it if they hear it from someone that uses it. They will respond to it. So what's that called? Like unaided or versus aided? Like if we did a brand survey, it would be like aided. Someone's like, "What industry you work in?" They'll be like, "I work in the health and fitness and wellness and sports and entertainment and outdoors and lifestyle industry," right? And I'll be like, "Yo, bro, why don't you just use Halo? Like I've told you this 10 times already." Like, or even if like you've gone to my Halo Academy or you've been on Halo Talks, Dave, you can chime in on this too. But like, so I'm constantly reminding people to like use my term. And now I'm starting to put marketing dollars, which I might want your help with, marketing dollars behind it to be like, hey, I'm not going to just grassroots this thing anymore. Like I'm going to go and we're talking to this company that does a newsletter. It's going to say serving the health, active lifestyle, outdoor sector. I'm going to put out initiating coverage report.
You know who's the genius of all time at this, and I'm not getting into politics, but Trump is with Mac and all of that stuff. He just develops a term or language and beats it to death and repeats until it's burned into your head, whether you like it or not.
Right.
And he is the master practitioner at that. He just pounds shit in your head and you can't forget it.
So I'd say if on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I'm at a 2.5 right now.
Okay.
And I'm not happy about it because I've spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and some marketing dollars that have not responded, not economically. Not I was just interviewing this guy Duff McDonald, by the way. We just did an awesome podcast this morning with this guy, and he's like, just focus on the present. Don't focus on the numbers. The numbers going to happen after like you focus on the present. Focus on the present, you're going to win, and you're going to execute. Then we'll talk about the numbers later. So, point is, we spent a lot of capital and a lot of resources. And I have this report coming out, which we'll send a copy to you. And then we might have to hire you to help us be like, hey, man, I want every fucking private equity group to have this on their website. When you say, oh, I focus on consumer, industrial, health and wellness. Like, no, dude, just put the word Halo on your website like I've asked you for 7 years now as like a favor. I don't want to do it as a favor anymore. I want it to be, this is a category. And I need you to note, I need you to acknowledge that this is a category. Just like the oil and gas industry is the energy industry. Somebody who works in financial services, I'll rant for a second, that they're doing wealth management now. Nobody says, well, what do you do? Work in financial service? No, dude, I'm in wealth management, right? That's how they say it, right? The guys in Vegas, they don't say I'm in the gambling industry. I'm in fucking gaming and entertainment, I'm in the hospitality industry, even if I have a red roof in.
Everything you're saying is 1,000% true.
Yeah, so I need somebody to help me like take this thing and be like, hey man, this is how you have to package it up and go from like a 2.5 to like an 8 in like 24 months. And then I could be Captain Halo, like I want to be as like a superhero, and be like, hey man, I just put $10 billion into like solving loneliness, obesity, and diabetes. How's that? How's that, mom? Tell my Jewish mother that I finally got my shit done, that I told her that I would be okay and like I'm doing good things. Anyway.
We've seen positive like gleans, Scott, like Chelsea Piers did like a Halo event, unasked, unaided, right? Yeah. That was super cool. We had a convention with what was it, Pete, with Kamal's old company.
Like Credit Suisse. We did a Halo. We did a Halo summit, which is awesome.
Halo was like everywhere. And
then COVID hit. But that guy,
hit, right? Yeah.
That guy Kamal, he's now at Jefferies. He's an equity analyst. You can go on his LinkedIn. He says he's a Halo analyst.
Yep.
So he's like one of our boys. Now he's a Halo analyst because I bought him like one of those conductor sticks. that says like he's the Halo maestro. So he might be doing it just like payback, like thanking me for that. But I want the term to be out there because I don't want someone to be like, the wellness industry. Nobody made money in the wellness industry because nobody did really. I want them to say like, hey man, I invested in Halo. Why isn't Dick's Sporting Goods on the back of every health club website? Like, how do they not talk to each other? There's not one Dick's Sporting Goods that has a partnership with a health club. Yet everyone runs on a treadmill in a health club and then needs to go buy a pair of sneakers. It doesn't make any sense. So I want to connect everything, dude. I want to connect it, and we're trying to do that.
I probably should mention, and I'm embarrassed to say I haven't brought this up before this moment, that 17 years ago we rebranded Life Fitness, the line of exercise equipment for the world.
It's one of the brand. You did the rebranding.
Everything.
For a hot second, they had a Halo technology plug-in. By the way,
if you go to our website and go,
I got to go check that.
Life Fitness is in there, but I mean, I'm like not connecting the dots here, but it's maybe the second biggest project we've ever done, and we've worked with them for about 3.5 years.
That's awesome. Yeah. So look, we make money on deals that we get done. There's some advertising money that we make on like our podcast and doing our Halo Academy. But as you know, like as a banker, if I'm doing a $3 million deal, a $3 million investment, we make 5%, $150,000, or I do a $50 million deal and make 5%, that changes everybody's lifestyle, in the company and gets us into broader and bigger transactions. So we're working with some $5 billion, $8 billion funds right now on buy sides in the Halo sector. But it's like I got to nudge him to be like, dude, can you fucking use my term already? Like I got on stage with this guy and we paid him what do you pay that guy? $15,000? Oh shit, we're still on the podcast. I gotta be careful here. I didn't know we were still recording. Yeah, that's
right. God made editing.
Nah, we can edit this out. No, so I paid him $15,000. I'm up on stage. I'm like, hey man, like I paid you to use the Halo term. Why are you using health, fitness, wellness, lifestyle, and outdoors? Like cut, like time out. Hey, can you get Scott a copy of the book and then give me your? I need the quotes. Hit me with the quotes.
Right. Okay, so this has been descending. I mean, like a sequential order. My philosophy of life is the following: he who dies with the most beer stories wins.
Right.
Which is why my podcast is called Beer Stories for Private Equity, because I believe that's what matters in life, and I have more beer stories than anybody I know.
We'll get to that with you next. So I like that.
Two, as I told you, the only credo or kind of reference in the agency is you win as a team, lose a team, because it comes from my background in team sports and being an athlete and all of that stuff. And I think that the beneficial, impactful nature of that thought is incredibly powerful because it starts from day one with no personal ego or pushing somebody else out of the way. My name is not on the door for a reason. That's
mine either.
I walk the walk.
Yep.
And number 3, in honor of the late, great, may he rest in peace, Robert Redford, who died today.
Yes.
Quote is, I can't swim. And then Paul Newman says, swim? Hell, the fall will kill you. And that's a quote from Cassidy.
Oh, gosh.
One of the 5 greatest moments in cinematic history.
Yeah, we got a quote glossary that we have at the bottom of our site, and we got some funny videos up there. Well, look, man, it's a pleasure having you on. We could go off for hours here, but I'll be on your podcast. We can pick this up, and then let's catch up on the next one. Great to have you on, man. Go Halo, go Monogram, keep doing great things, and I'll catch you on your podcast next week.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you, bro. Thanks.
Bye.